The day the mafia boss I secretly loved for 10 years was poisoned, instead of becoming his antidote, I pushed his first love into the room, because on the night I detoxified him in our past life, his first love witnessed it with her own eyes. With reddened eyes, the woman ran out the door, only to die of a sudden heart attack on her way to the hospital. Later, the man calmly promised to take responsibility for me and calmly married me, on the night of our wedding. The man pushed me into the basement with a vicious glare. Myra, if you hadn't drugged me that day, Tanzil wouldn't have witnessed that scene and died of a broken heart. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the night the man was poisoned. This time, without hesitation, I handed the man over to his first love, watching them finally unite as a couple. Then I faked my death and returned to North City, continuing to live as the young lady of my circle, but the man went mad after I left. Kneeling before me with reddened eyes, Myra, I was wrong. Come back to me, please. What are you yelling for, Myra? Isn't this exactly what you wanted? I was jolted awake by the sharp pain in my chest. Finally emerging from the suffocation of my past life, I realized I had been reborn. Reborn on the very night Zeke Pei was drugged. In my previous life, I loved Zeke Pei to the bone. He was my brother's closest friend, the most powerful figure in the underworld and upper society of South City. When I was once targeted and bound by kidnappers, he found out from my brother and he sought out the bound me, took down dozens of people single-handedly, covered in bloodstains, and rescued me from the center of the encirclement. All the people around lay on the ground wailing in pain, and it awakened the admiration in my young heart. Later, I ran alone to the southern city and boldly confessed my love to him. He coldly left me at the underground boxing gym, saying, "If you can fight your way to me, I'll agree to be with you." So I shed my elegant clothes and devoted myself to studying boxing and martial arts, all for the day when he would look at me with newfound respect, until the moment he was weakened by aphrodisiacs, and I willingly entered his room to become his antidote. The moment he was released, the door was pushed open from the outside by my brother, and at the same time, Zeke Pei's first love stood behind him. After that day, he was forced to marry me, and at the same time, he became a different person. I withstood all the opposition from my family and endured all the scorn in South City for him, believing we would have a happy ending. But on our wedding day, he pushed me off a cliff into the sea. If it weren't for you, Tanzil, and I wouldn't have been separated like this. Get away from me. Ah! I suddenly sprang up, clutching my neck, gasping for air, and glaring at Zeke Pei in front of me. I realized the situation of my rebirth, then I violently shoved Zeke Pei aside and rushed out of the room. "Someone, your General Pei is in trouble." In no time, a group of people surrounded me with anxious faces, but I stopped them at the room's entrance. "Call Miss Tanzil Liu over, only she can help." My face was deathly pale, but my mind had never been clearer. In this life, even though the fabric on me is half concealing, at least it hasn't come to the final step yet. So now, there's only one thing I want to do: help Zeke Pei and Tanzil Liu fulfill their wishes and let me return to Beicheng. What are you all still standing around for? Are you going to take responsibility if Zeke Pei gets suffocated? A few of Zeke Pei's subordinates exchanged glances. Finally realizing what was happening to Zeke Pei in the room, staggering unsteadily, I hastily dragged Tanzil Liu over in a panic, clad in a white gauze dress. The frail Tanzil Liu squinted her eyes at me. "Myra, didn't you travel all the way from North City just for this moment? What on earth are you up to by making me come in here?" The air was stiflingly humid and hot, as if I had sunk once more into the dark depths of the ocean in my past life. Choking, I was filled with despair. I lowered my head and clenched my teeth. "If you don't go in now, Zeke Pei's lower half will really be useless from now on." The next moment, the person in front of me pushed me away, and a series of ambiguous moans immediately came from inside the room. Judging by the sounds, the two inside had long been entangled beyond separation. The low growls of a man, the soft moans of a woman, the sound of objects falling, and muffled thuds of impact. Outside the door, Zeke Pei's good brothers cheered. "Our boss is really something. I wonder if Miss Tanzil's frame can handle it. The boss knows his limits. Miss Shen might not have it easy. But Miss Liu, she's the one the boss holds dear in his palm." No need for us to worry. The cacophony of sounds around me pierced my heart with pain, one after another. Amidst the bloody turmoil in my heart, I drifted away from the room. I hid in the underground boxing gym, and when no one was around, I completely broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. At first, it was stifled whimpers, but then came the wails of anguish. As if all the grievances I had suffered from Zeke Pay over these 2 lifetimes were finally pouring out. Just as I stepped out of the underground fight club, I ran straight into my brother, who had come after hearing the commotion. Seeing me, he immediately froze in place. "Myra, how did you?" He didn't finish the question, but I knew my eyes must be red beyond recognition. My clothes were still torn from Zeke Pay's rough handling, making me look every bit the victim of bullying. Brother instantly became anxious. "Myra, say something. What exactly happened? I'll stand up for you." I held my brother back and explained to him, "It's nothing. Brother, have you forgotten the skills I possess? I wasn't bullied, I just came to understand some things." I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and looked up stubbornly at my brother. "Brother, I want to go back to Beicheng." All right. My brother patted my shoulder and pulled me, teary-eyed, into a hug. "Myra, it's good that you've come to your senses. I came this time to settle the score with that sweetheart of yours, but thankfully you woke up before things got out of hand. Once we're back in Beicheng, Dad will find you a man 1,000, no, 10,000 times better than your sweetheart. You won't have to suffer in Nancheng anymore." Silly brother. He still doesn't know that the one I love is his good friend Zeke Pay. In my past life, after witnessing that scene between me and Zeke Pay, he beat Zeke Pay severely and tried to take me away. It was my stubborn insistence on making Zeke Pay take responsibility that led to my tragic end later. Thinking of this, I began to shed tears again in my brother's embrace. In my previous life, I sank to the bottom of the sea, never even getting to see my family one last time. I nuzzled against my brother's shoulder. Brother, I won't be going back to Nancheng anymore, nor will I ever love that person again. From now on, Zeke Pay belongs to Myra here, just a stranger in South City." After leaving the Pay family villa complex with my brother, I returned to the underground boxing gym to pack my things. To keep my brother from worrying, I agreed to leave South City once the collaboration with the Pay family was finalized. While waiting for my brother, I took the opportunity to pack up my belongings in South City and say goodbye to my friends here. Thinking that I could return to Beicheng in just a couple of days, I felt much more relaxed and finally laughed out loud as I picked up my trophy. "Prepare the match for me." As I turned around, I bumped right into Zeke Pay, who was casually draped in his clothes. Whenever something bothered him, he liked to vent his emotions at the underground boxing gym, and I would always be there waiting to arrange everything for him. Now, he was also shirtless, ordering me to take action. As soon as I looked up, my eyes met the dense bite marks covering his upper body. The smile at the corner of my lips froze, and I awkwardly averted my gaze. "Find someone else to do it. I don't have time." Perhaps because it was the first time I had refused Zeke Pay, he responded with a cold, ambiguous remark. What just happened was seen by many people. "I've already decided to marry Tanzil in 3 days. There's no need for you to play hard to get or harbor inappropriate feelings for me." Suppressing the bitterness in my heart, I lowered my eyes and replied calmly, "Congratulations, Brother Zeke, may you have a harmonious union lasting 100 years. Their marriage was within my expectations. I don't know if it's my imagination, but Zeke Pay seemed to sway slightly when he heard Brother Zeke. Probably because ever since I've known Zeke Pay since childhood, I've always called him Brother Zeke without fail. Since the day he saved me, I've never called him that again. But now, this Brother Zeke feels like a thin veil between us, one that I've drawn back over our relationship. He stood opposite, taking a long moment to react before finally clearing his throat. "It's good that you know your limits." His handsome brows furrowed as if he still wanted to say something. But he was interrupted by the arrival of Tanzil. "I've been thinking of training at the underground boxing gym lately. Let me use this ring." Tanzil was held in Zeke Pay's arms, yet his icy gaze remained fixed on me as he spoke in a chilling tone. "Since Tanzil wants it, you'll give up this spot for her. And your room in the Pay family villa. Prepare it for Tanzil as well." Tanzil and I are getting married soon, it's not appropriate for you to keep living next to me." His unblinking stare bore into me. Knowing my place, I silently rose and yielded the spot. "All right, I'll go pack my things and move out now." A bitter feeling rose in my heart. So all of Zeke Pei's reactions were just to clear Tanzil Liu's name and reassure her, and in the process, he made sure I understood that there could never be anything between us. "But Zeke, I even called you brother like that. You will forever only be an elder in my heart. I will return to North City. Reuniting with my family amidst the swirling snow, I will never go where I shouldn't, nor covet those I shouldn't desire." I moved into the villa my brother had bought in South City. Unfortunately, it's quite close to Zeke Pei's place. But Zeke Pei has been busy with wedding preparations these past 2 days, and I've been happily chatting and laughing with the folks at the boxing gym, packing and mailing some things, waiting for my brother to finish his business in Nancheng. No matter where I am, I keep hearing people marvel at Zeke Pei and Tanzil Liu's grand wedding in Nancheng. Unlike my own hasty wedding in Nancheng in my past life, the diamond-studded wedding dress, gathering all the flowers in the city, even if just for 3 days, Zeke Pei gave Tanzil Liu the utmost luxury. 2 or 3 days later, as usual, I went to the boxing gym and said goodbye to my friends before leaving. Just as I put down my boxing gloves, a grip on my wrist was so strong I couldn't break free. Zeke Pei, his face dark, pulled me to a secluded spot, looking down at me. "Have you been avoiding me these past few days?" I twisted my hand, breaking free from Zeke Pei's large grip, and responded indifferently, "I didn't." He was surprised that I managed to break free from his hold and, with a forceful move, pinned me against the wall. Only when I could no longer escape did he speak with a darkened expression. "Still won't admit it. You stayed right next to me for 2 days, yet I never saw you once. When you did see me, you lowered your head and laughed with another man. Isn't this clearly you avoiding me? Why, are you still holding on to illusions about me?" I raised my eyes to meet his gaze. The disgust swirling in his pupils was so sharp it nearly made me tremble. In the end, I suppressed the bitterness in my heart and repeatedly interrupted him. "How could that be? Brother Zeke, now you're like an elder in my eyes. When you and Sister Tanzil get married, I'll definitely send a grand gift. I won't harbor those dirty thoughts about you anymore. I've truly come to my senses." One after another, I calmly voiced my inner thoughts, yet Zeke Pei's expression grew unexpectedly darker. The corners of his lips curled into a sneer. "Elder, sister-in-law." He narrowed his eyes, his heaving chest betraying inexplicable emotions. He stood up and brushed it off. "Easy for you to say. In the end, it's all about playing hard to get, with wicked intentions still lingering." With that, Zeke Pei roughly grabbed my wrist and dragged me to the Pei family villa. Several boxes were placed in the middle of the living room, densely packed, all filled with things that held memories of me and Zeke Pei. There were the boxing gloves I bought for him, the sketchbooks I drew, and the handwritten love letters for every birthday. And now, they were all boldly displayed under the bright lights, subjected to everyone's gaze. "If you claim to have no feelings for me anymore, why are you taking these things out and putting them in front of Tanzil now?" I slowly walked forward. This was indeed something I had packed up, but it wasn't what I had placed in front of Tanzil Liu. This was what I had thrown into the trash when I left South City. But even if I said it, Zeke Pei wouldn't believe me. "Yes, Zeke, I admit I once had feelings for you that I shouldn't have, but now that you're getting married, I wouldn't stoop to something so degrading." I lowered my eyes to wipe away tears and gave Zeke Pei a deep look. Taking a lighter from my pocket, I bent down and lit an envelope on fire. The words to Zeke Pei were instantly burned beyond recognition. Calmly, I threw the burning envelope into the cardboard box. Boom. "Myra Shin." The moment flames erupted, Zeke Pei's furious voice instantly rang in my ears. The flickering light fell on his face, and I was startled to see not a trace of relief, but rather a gloom so dark it seemed to drip with ink. "Myra Shin, no matter how convincingly you pretend, you must understand. My heart belongs only to Tanzil." The fire's heat scorched the already humid air, searing its way into my heart as well. Involuntarily, I found myself fiercely missing the winds of North City. Harsh as they were, they blew with a refreshing clarity. Fortunately, tomorrow Once my brother finishes handling Zeke Pei's wedding matters, he will take me back to North City. The next day was Zeke Pei's wedding, held beside the famous ends of the earth in South City. A setting of utmost romance, the entire city rushed to send their blessings to the couple before this grand, once-in-a-century wedding. My brother Shenyi, while changing into his groomsman's suit, told me to go wander around the wedding on my own. I hadn't wanted to come, but he dragged me backstage anyway. Unexpectedly, I ran into Tanzil backstage. To my surprise, when she saw me, she showed no shock, only triumph. She beamed with a smile. I never expected little sister Myra to come to my wedding. I took deep breaths, inhaling the oxygen in the air, frowning as I glanced around. No one was there. What did you do to me? I don't want to make things difficult for you, but Myra-shan, I'm about to marry Zeke Pei. I have to know who matters more in his heart, me or you. The next second, I collapsed on the spot. Waking up again, I found myself tied up at the edge of a cliff, with Tanzil bound beside me in the same manner. Tanzi, following the voice, I saw Zeke Pei standing in the distance, his tall frame accentuated by a sleek wedding suit that highlighted his striking features. Though his movements were filled with panic, his brows were tightly furrowed, his expression consumed by anxiety. Who sent you? If you dare lay a hand on my bride, you'll regret it. I closed my eyes. Tanzil's calm demeanor and the words she spoke before I lost consciousness made me instantly realize what had happened. What, is it the same as my past life? A wedding by the cliffside, that dark seawater. I had always thought that in my past life, it was someone Zeke Pei had offended who kidnapped me to the cliff's edge on my wedding day. But now the kidnapper's face is exactly the same as in my past life. The two of them were probably together behind my back even in that previous life. The sea breeze on the mountain chilled my face, and I realized I had been crying uncontrollably for who knows how long. But I couldn't voice my accusations because the kidnapper had tightly covered my mouth, leaving me only able to whimper, thinking of breaking free from Miss Shun. We were just entrusted by someone to see who he truly values more when faced with life and death. Tears fell as I wailed inwardly. What was there to see? Didn't this wedding already say it all? After a half-minute pause, Zeke Pei stumbled forward to reach us, his dark eyes locking fiercely onto the kidnappers. Name your price. I'll give you anything, just don't harm these two. Boss Pei, we've heard of your formidable reputation. Kidnapping them isn't just about risking death for some money. Zeke Pei's pupils dilated. What do you mean? The kidnapper placed his foot behind the two of us. You, Zeke Pei, have been brilliant all your life. We just want to see what you, Zeke Pei, look like in agony. Ha ha ha, Zeke Pei, one is your fiancé, the other is the pampered young lady you raised. Today, one of them must die. Beneath them was a bottomless cliff and the deep sea, while beside them, Tanzil's tearful voice was unbearably fragile. Zeke, save Myra, or you won't be able to explain it to the Shun family. The next second, the kidnapper's foot was placed behind Tanzil, and half of her body was dangling over the edge of the cliff. Zeke Pei was so frightened that his face turned deathly pale, and his whole body trembled. Save Tanzi. The answer blurted out. The kidnapper smiled triumphantly, and Tanzil, who had been feigning terror and tension, secretly curled the corners of her lips. I also felt relieved upon hearing the long-anticipated answer. My tears were gone, for they had long been drained dry. The scorching beach of South City, swept by mountain winds, left my face pale and at peace. The moment Tanzil was pushed out, just as the kidnapper's hand was about to reach me, I spread my arms wide, letting the severed rope snap sharply by our ears. He gave Zeke Pei, who was holding Tanzil, a deep look, just one glance, and the emotions in his eyes surged violently, changing in a way I couldn't understand. There was tension, confusion, panic, and tension, panic and tension. I don't understand. Wasn't this his choice? I calmly fell into the sea. It didn't matter anymore. In this lifetime, the outcome was just like this. Zeke Pei, may we never meet again. As the words faded, my entire body tumbled over the endless cliff edge, like a broken eagle without wings, plummeting straight into the deep sea amidst the damp, rising mountain winds. Look, at the moment Myra fell, Zeke Pei abruptly released his grip on Tanzil. Even he himself didn't realize why he had been staring blankly at the bottom of the cliff. His timing was too coincidental. So much so that he didn't even catch a glimpse of Myra Shen's retreating figure. He reached out his hand, only to let it hang in midair, watching helplessly as the mountain wind carried away the little princess he had raised. Myra's ink-black hair fluttered in the cold wind, and for the first time, he felt his heart gripped so tightly. "Myra!" Zeke Pei shouted at the top of his lungs, yet couldn't even hold onto the shadow of the figure at the bottom of the cliff. His heart pounded violently in his chest until he realized he would never again have the chance to cherish the little girl he adored. Stars began to flicker before his eyes. Really, he would never see the princess he had held dear in his hands since childhood again. The next second, Zeke Pei fainted on the spot. Staggering toward the edge of the cliff, stopped by Tanzil beside him, the kidnapper had long since disappeared without a trace. "Are you crazy, Zeke? You'll die if you fall off the cliff." Zeke Pei suddenly spat on the ground, clutching his chest as he began to retch. Die. His eyes were bloodshot. Dead. What did Tanzil just mean? Myra, is she dead? After saying this, he collapsed to the ground, unconscious. In his dream, he had a long dream where he married Tanzil, yet, he was not happy. Throughout his life, his mind was haunted by the last look Myra gave him at the cliff's edge. Quietly, it was more heartbreaking than any desperate cry after death. That pale, plain face was filled with complete indifference and disregard toward him. After several struggles, he finally managed to get a little closer to Myra. Her beautiful dark eyes showed not the slightest ripple of emotion, nor any fluctuation when looking at him. It was as if, to Myra, he was nothing more than a stranger, but not entirely. Looking closely, he sensed nothing but resentment in Myra's calm eyes. Resentment. Beads of cold sweat formed on his forehead as he clenched the sheets, suddenly bolting upright from the bed. "Myra." Tanzil held him back, and the next second Xunyi appeared at the door. The two close friends locked eyes, with Xunyi's gaze filled entirely with anger. "Zeke Pei, where's Myra?" Unlike his usual authoritative demeanor, Zeke Pei rarely lowered his head. "Myra, she." For the first time, Xunyi saw hesitation in Zeke Pei and walked over to grab him by the collar. "What do you mean by acting like this now? I'm asking you, where's Myra? You used to dote on her the most." Zeke Pei's evasive glance lasted only a moment before Xunyi caught it, sending a wave of panic through Xunyi's heart. "Speak up, Zeke Pei. Someone said they saw Myra being kidnapped by robbers and you went to rescue her. Have you brought Myra back safely now?" Zeke Pei remained silent, the corners of his eyes flushed red. With a loud bang, Xunyi punched Zeke Pei squarely in the face. "Your reputation in Nancheng is nothing but a paper tiger. You couldn't even protect my sister. I'll go find her myself." Xunyi released Zeke Pei, not because he didn't want to keep teaching him a lesson, but because Xunyi had something more important to do. He was going to find Myra. The moment Xunyi left, Zeke Pei completely collapsed onto the hospital bed. My mind kept replaying everything that had just happened. "Zeke, what's wrong with you? Why won't you even look at me since you woke up? What about our wedding, Zeke? You promised you'd marry me." Tanzil anxiously tugged at Zeke Pei, trying to find some clue in his demeanor, but no matter what she did, Zeke Pei remained slumped in place, completely unresponsive. After what felt like half the day, Zeke Pei finally reacted. Instead, he pulled out the 4-needle from his hand and stumbled toward the door in a desperate rush. "Tanzi, we'll hold our wedding later. I need to sort out my thoughts first. I must find Myra, and those kidnappers. I won't let them off easy." Tanzil remained where she was, continuously replaying Zeke Pei's words in her mind, originally intending to chase after him. She ended up calling the kidnapper's number instead. "Bro, you better lay low for a while. Zeke Pei seems serious this time. If there's really nowhere to hide, call me." Tanzil, originally dressed in white, instantly seemed like a completely different person, her eyes brimming with malice and calculation. But the next second, Zeke Pei, who had just left, returned unexpectedly, and collided with the resentful gaze in Tanzil's eyes. "You come with me to find that kidnapper. You're so close to them. We're bound to find them." However, Zeke Pei didn't notice the fleeting resentment and anger in Tanzil Liu's eyes. By the time he dragged Tanzil Liu to the kidnapper's hideout, the place was already empty, with no trace of the kidnapper. Zeke Pei angrily punched the wall in frustration. Instantly, a streak of blood trickled down the wall, and Zeke Pei's gaze was fixed intently on that bloodstain. As if the crimson hue had seeped into his very eyes, Tanzil Liu was so frightened that her body trembled. Noticed by Zeke Pei, she frowned helplessly. For some reason, in the past, whenever he looked at Tanzil, he only saw her as pitiable and heart-wrenching, but now Tanzil always looks so frightened. It stirred up an inexplicable restlessness in his heart. Reluctantly, he tried to comfort Tanzil Liu. "Tanzil, I must find Myra, alive or dead, and as for these two kidnappers, I swear they won't get off easy. If you can't take it anymore, go back first." Tanzil Liu recovered from the shock and grabbed Zeke Pei's sleeve. "But Zeke, what about our wedding? Since in your heart, I'm more important than Myra, then you should value our wedding even more." The expected comfort and gentle reassurance didn't come, and Zeke Pei's handsome brows furrowed. He pinched the bridge of his nose. "We'll talk after the wedding," after tossing a sentence to Tanzil Liu. He opened the door and left the Pei family villa. Wedding. Two words made Zeke Pei's frown deepen even more. He had thought about it before. After all, something like that had happened, and he definitely had to take responsibility for Tanzil. But his mind couldn't help recalling how Myra had calmly called Tanzil sister-in-law in front of him earlier. Her somber dark eyes lingered in his mind, impossible to shake off. Unable to break free, he searched for Myra all night but couldn't find her anywhere. Even lying in bed, he remained dazed and confused. Unbeknownst to Zeke Pei, Shenyi was also searching for Myra by the seaside. But even when Zeke Pei was asleep, his dreams were filled with Myra. He was drowsy and sluggish. Perhaps the wind from shouting by the shore all evening had gotten to him. His body felt utterly unwell. He had vomited blood again during yesterday's wedding, and his mind was already clouded, lying on the bed, just like when he was unconscious before. He moaned in cold sweat, lost in his dreams. Finally, he saw the Myra he had been longing for. But Myra wasn't as cold to him as she had been these past few days. The woman he drugged and moved in his dream that day was Myra. When his thoughts were tangled, Shenyi rushed out to castrate him. But Myra stopped Shenyi and told him she loved him. His feelings were complicated. After all, the little princess he had raised for so many years suddenly said she loved him. Anyone would feel at a loss. But by a twist of fate, perhaps because of the Shen family, maybe out of a sense of responsibility, or even the joy he couldn't suppress in his heart, he married Myra. He thought that as long as he took responsibility for Myra, bringing her home safely as his Mrs. Pei, everything would be fine. But his thoughts were still too naive. Myra was not content with this. She repeatedly hurt Tanzil. Unwilling to let Tanzil live in peace, she even went so far as to provoke Tanzil after the engagement, driving Tanzil to attempt suicide multiple times. Only then did he realize that the one he had fallen for was the little princess who used to follow him around calling him Brother Zeke, not this scheming woman she had become. So on the day of their wedding, when Myra was kidnapped by bandits, he merely watched coldly as Myra cursed at Tanzil, watched coldly as the kidnappers pushed her into the sea, though his heart was stirred. The thought of all the things Myra had done in her life made it impossible for him to persuade himself further. But later, he discovered it was all a deception orchestrated by Tanzil Liu. He had personally pushed the little princess he once cherished off a cliff. No matter how many unspeakable sorrows and laments there were, his little princess was gone. He punished Tanzil Liu, throwing her and the kidnappers into the police station together. But even so, his Myra never came back. The Shun and Pei families severed all ties from then on. Shenyi beat him up fiercely that day. But no matter how much it hurt, his longing for Myra in his heart could not cease. Opening his eyes again, Zeke Pei surveyed his surroundings and understood the experiences of 2 lifetimes. He lay on the bed, unable to recover from the shock for a long time. Suddenly, his phone rang. "Boss Pei, we've found those 2 kidnappers." By the time Zeke Pei arrived at the underground boxing gym, the kidnappers had already been tortured beyond recognition, hanging from sandbags and being beaten. Tanzil Liu was there too, Her body trembled slightly with each blow the kidnappers received. Zeke Pei watched the scene before him with cold eyes. In the past, he would have felt heartache for Tanzil, but now, he recalled everything he had experienced in his previous life, and he couldn't muster even a shred of sympathy for Tanzil. In fact, there was even resentment. Zeke, you're finally here. Now that these two kidnappers have been caught, the big rock in your heart must have fallen. Can we get married now? Tanzil remained completely unaware of Zeke Pei's unusual behavior. She just clung to Zeke Pei, her mind filled with thoughts of marriage. Once she joins the Pei family, everything will be settled. But Zeke Pei forcefully pulled Tanzil away from himself. With a mocking curl of his lips, he repeated coldly, "Getting married." What surged in Zeke Pei's eyes was overwhelming hatred. "You're just as despicable as you were in your past life." Suddenly, Tanzil was violently thrown to the ground by Zeke Pei and pinned before the two kidnappers. "Look at the two of them, aren't you familiar? Tanzil, these are your dear brothers from the orphanage. To marry into the Pei family, you'd really stop at nothing." Suddenly, Tanzil didn't raise her eyes, her gaze filled with disbelief. How did Zeke Pei know about her relationship with these two? Impossible. Ever since she was rescued by the Pei family, she had hidden it very well. There was no way Zeke Pei could have known. What was even more unexpected was that Zeke Pei directly grabbed Tanzil by the hair and threw her to the ground. "On our wedding day, you had these two kidnap Myra and throw her into the sea, just to see who mattered more to me, Tanzil. I might as well tell you now. No one is more important to me than Myra." The next second, Zeke Pei stomped on Tanzil's face, leaving her unable to move. All these years, Zeke Pei could be said to have fought his way out of South City. It was his ruthless decisiveness and merciless cunning along the way that earned him his current status. So he was different from those aristocratic young masters like Shunyi. When ruthless, there's no reasoning to be had. That day, Zeke Pei locked Tanzil in a room for 3 days and nights, leaving her to fend for herself. In Nancheng, he had more than enough power to do so. Later, Tanzil didn't starve to death in that room. Opening the door again, one of her brothers from the orphanage had died. His body not a single piece of intact flesh when he passed. Later, Tanzil went to prison and spent the rest of her life there, but Zeke Pei seemed to remain forever on that wedding day. Originally, it should have been his and Myra's wedding. 3 months later, Zeke Pei woke up groggily from his hospital bed on an ordinary afternoon. Because of Myra, he had fallen gravely ill and remained bedridden. Even in his dreams, the events of his past life gradually became clearer to him. It wasn't until the very end that he realized how many wrongs he had committed against Myra. Dimly, he woke from his dream again, dazedly processing his current situation. Finally realizing his body truly couldn't hold on anymore. In truth, sometimes he would fall in love with the version of himself in dreams, the one who won Myra's affection, unlike the present him, for whom even a single meeting with Myra has become an unattainable wish. This was all his own choice. Suddenly, someone rushed in from outside. "Boss Pei, there's news from the Shun family. There's news from the Shun family." Zeke Pei remained motionless for a long while before slowly raising his head. "What did you say?" His subordinate now understood Boss Pei's disbelief, as over the past 3 months, he had witnessed firsthand how much importance Boss Pei placed on Miss Myra Shun. "President Pei, Miss Myra Shun has been found. She's returned to the Shun residence." Zeke Pei instantly got up from the hospital bed and ran toward the Shun family home. Myra. He had flown to Beicheng before, but never had time felt so agonizingly slow. As soon as he got off the plane, he noticed that it was snowing in North City. Zeke Pei reached out his hand, and the snowflakes slowly melted in his palm. Just like when he first arrived in North City, as soon as the snowflakes melted, Myra's delicate features appeared in his eyes. From then on, he unconsciously began to take care of that small figure, shielding the little princess in his heart from harm. "Brother Zeke, I love the snowflakes in Beicheng the most. Tell me, if we stand together in the same snowfall, does that count as growing old together?" At that time, he didn't have the chance to appreciate the beauty of it. Only now does he realize that those were the days he most wishes to return to, yet can never go back. When he entered the Shun family's home, His body couldn't stop trembling. He didn't relax until he saw Shenyi. "What are you doing here?" After saying this, Shenyi punched Zeke Pei in the face. "You don't deserve to stand in the Shen family." Shenyi's eyes burned with fury as he recalled the suffering Myra had endured when he found her in that small coastal village. He couldn't help but imagine tearing the mastermind behind it all to pieces. Shenyi acknowledged that Zeke Pei had saved his life numerous times over the years. But that could never justify harming Myra. The thought that the kidnapper had acted because Zeke Pei failed to handle his own emotions properly only fueled his anger. Letting Myra suffer from unrequited love for so many years made Shenyi furious. His fists clenched tightly, ready to punch Zeke Pei in the face again. "I just want to see Myra." Bang! "Bro, stop hitting him." A clear and melodious voice came from inside the door, and at that moment, the two finally saw Myra emerging from the Shen family. Myra had changed a lot, yet it seemed as if nothing had changed at all. Those eyes of hers were still breathtakingly beautiful. In just a moment, Zeke Pei's gaze lingered on Myra and didn't waver. In the next second, Myra pulled Shenyi behind her. Her gaze at Zeke Pei was filled with wariness. Instantly, Zeke Pei trembled, his voice even choking with emotion. "Myra, you." In his heart, he was ultimately stung by Myra's evasive demeanor. He wanted to step forward, but Myra Shen dodged away. "Myra." In just a moment, he took advantage of Myra's fear of his reaction. His eyes turned red. "Myra, are you avoiding me?" Zeke Pei's dark eyes burned intensely, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't pierce Myra Shen's heart. Myra Shen hadn't seen Zeke Pei for 3 months. Those days spent in the seaside mountain village, upon seeing Zeke Pei again, there was truly no ripple of emotion left. "I'm not avoiding you, I just don't want you to hurt my family." Zeke Pei froze in place. Hurt family. So in both lifetimes, in Myra's eyes, he had ultimately been such a scoundrel. He paused for a few seconds, gave a bitter smile, then stepped back from the two of them. "I won't, Myra. I'll never hurt your family again, and I would never hurt you." After saying this, Zeke Pei froze in place. Instantly wanting to swallow back the words that had slipped out unconsciously, he lowered his gaze for half a second, recalling everything that had happened before, seeing the mockery at the corner of Myra's lips. He couldn't help but take an unnatural step back. No one could have imagined that the powerful figure who strategized and manipulated everything in South City would ever feel so guilty. But who could he blame? It was all the bitter fruit of his own making. So Shenyi had long stopped believing Zeke Pei's excuses. Throwing another punch aimed at his face. "Zeke Pei, are you even worthy?" The next second, Myra stopped Shenyi. "Brother, there's no need for this." Myra Shen shielded Shenyi behind her. "Brother, I want to talk to Zeke Pei alone." Shenyi naturally disagreed. "How could that be? Myra, I remember everything he did crystal clear." Once Myra Shen made up her mind, no one could stop her. She smiled at Shenyi and said, "Brother, I know my limits." Shenyi tried to stop them for a long time, but in the end, Zeke Pei still followed behind Myra Shen. They disappeared into the swirling snow. Zeke Pei followed behind Myra, since Myra remained silent. He naturally didn't dare to speak first. After what seemed like an eternity, the graceful figure ahead suddenly stopped, causing Zeke Pei to bump into Myra. Myra merely lifted her eyes calmly, just as she always had, her gaze now completely indifferent. She seemed to have no interest in him or in what he was doing. The mere thought of this possibility made Zeke Pei's heart ache so much he could barely breathe. It was Myra who spoke first, pulling Zeke Pei out of those painful thoughts. "Zeke Pei, you've remembered everything, haven't you? Your reactions just now were unnatural. It should be clear now that I truly don't like you anymore." Zeke Pei froze, his heart tightening painfully. Myra Shen continued speaking to herself. "Then you should understand even more clearly that between you and me." Only then did Zeke Pei gather the courage to meet Myra's gaze. He greedily fixed his eyes on her features, unwilling to look away for even a second. "Between us now. It might even be called hatred." A glimmer of moisture flashed in Zeke Pei's dark eyes. Myra Shen continued, "So Zeke Pei, how do you still have the nerve to come looking for me?" As her words fell, Myra took a step closer, locking eyes directly with Zeke Pei. For the first time, Zeke Pei felt the snowstorm of Beicheng so scorching and tearing. He involuntarily took a step back, his lips trembling. Though countless thoughts raced through his mind, not a single word could escape his lips. For the first time, he understood what it truly meant to retreat. Zeke Pei stood rooted to the spot, letting the coldest winds and snow pile layer upon layer over him. Was it cold? It didn't feel as cold as it did in his heart, but it was still cold, yet he didn't want to move. It was a punishment, yet also seemed like a release. Myra left, leaving these words for Zeke Pei. Even if there was hatred in her eyes, there wasn't the slightest ripple of emotion. Zeke Pei came to a realization. To Myra, he was merely a stranger with an unpleasant past. That night, he stood in the snowstorm for who knows how long. The snow in North City was chilling, and even more so, it could wound. He might be punishing himself, or perhaps he hadn't figured out how to spend the rest of his life drowning in endless remorse. How was he supposed to endure it? So that night, he was in the thick snowstorm of the northern city, and fell into eternal sleep, never to be found again. With a smile, he stopped breathing.